Fisherman charged for injuring another with spear gun. A 19-year-old St. Andrew fisherman has been charged by the police for using a spear gun to shoot another man in his neck during an argument. Charged with wounding with intent is Jerome Through. His court date is being arranged. The incident happened at a beach in 9 miles in the parish on Friday, June 14. Reports from the Bull Bay police are that about 2 p.m., an argument developed between both men. During the argument, Throop allegedly used a spear gun to shoot a spear, hitting the man in the neck, causing a wound that bled. The matter was reported and Throop was later arrested and subsequently charged. Cops blame overtaking for a 4-fatality crash. Police have revealed that reckless overtaking was the cause of Sunday evening's collision that claimed the lives of 4 bikers on the Collingdon Main Road in Whitehouse, Westmoreland. The deceased are Kemani Thomas, Tevin Bailey, Ronaldo Fenton, and 22-year-old Arsenio Forbes, all of Whitehouse, Westmoreland. Head of the Westmoreland Police Division Superintendent Othniel Dobson said the crash occurred around 6:05 p.m. when 2 motorcycles with parents aboard were traveling in an easterly direction towards Whitehouse. The drivers of the bike reportedly overtook a Toyota Yaris motor car and collided in the front of a Toyota Hiace bus traveling in the opposite direction towards Savannah Lamar. All 4 men on the bike succumbed to their injuries received on the spot. While the police carry out their investigation into the incident, Superintendent Dobson is encouraging motorcyclists to use the roads correctly by wearing protective helmets and staying within the speed limit. The senior officer said the police are out prosecuting offenders and seizing their motorcycles. Health Ministry says all donated ventilators accounted for. The Ministry of Health and Wellness is advising that all ventilators that were donated to the government as part of the country's COVID-19 response are accounted for and are at facilities island-wide. It says during the height of pandemic, the Southern Regional Health Authority received 6 ventilators, while the Western Regional Authority and the Southeast Regional Health Authority benefited from 8 and 23 respectively. Hospitals in the Northeast Regional Health Authority benefited from a donation of 5 ventilators, while the University Hospital of the West End received 12. The Health Ministry says these donations added to the number of existing ventilators in the public health system, bringing the total to use to more than 100. Exotic dancer fined $5,000 for spalling sex act. An exotic dancer who was among 2 people charged with indecent exposure and disorderly conduct following a sex act on the street in Spalding, Clarendon a week ago was fined $5,000 on Monday when she appeared in court. The accused woman was brought before Manchester Parish Court at Poros, where she pleaded guilty. She was also fined $1,000 or 2 days for indecent exposure and $4,000 or 2 days for disorderly conduct. A man who allegedly engaged the exotic dancer in the sex act remains on bail and is to be brought before the courts at Spalding on Tuesday, July 23rd. Videos of the sex act, which had gone viral on social media, showed the couple performing oral sex on each other in a bar and on the street. Sources say the couple were paid to perform the sex act. St. James man wanted for a police shooting arrested at visa appointment. A man who was on the run for over 3 years for allegedly shooting at the police in St. James was arrested while at a visa appointment at an embassy in the corporate area. 34-year-old Jim Warren, otherwise called Keno, of Top Hill, Mount Clare, St. James, was later charged with shooting with intent, possession of a prohibited weapon, and unauthorized possession of ammunition. The charges stem from a shooting incident on the night of Monday, February 5, 2018. The police report that about 6:30 p.m., a team was on patrol in Rentland, Mount Clare, St. James, when upon seeing the cops, Warren reportedly opened gunfire at them before escaping in the area. Years later, on Monday, June 3, 2024, Warren turned up at an embassy in St. Andrew, where he had applied for a visa. The police say checks made by the representatives revealed that Warren was listed among a group of wanted men in St. James. His application was denied and he was immediately arrested and later charged for the 2018 shooting incident. His court date is being finalized. Fathers on the front line. Of all the crime scenes stirred in the memory of retiring Deputy Police Commissioner Fitz Bailey, none has shaken the father of 3 more than the 2022 Cocoa Peace massacre, in which a mother and her 4 children were slaughtered by a relative. I went to the scene, I just glimpsed. I just couldn't stand to see what existed there, he told reporters last Friday. On June 21, 2022, hours after Father's Day, the throats of 31-year-old Kimisha Wright and her children, Kimanda Simit 15, Shirley Simit 12, Raphael Simit 5, and 23-month-old Kishane Henry Jr. were slashed while they slept in their Clarendon home. Their cousin Rasheen Barrett, then 23, was later convicted and handed 5 life sentences for the crime. The type of gloominess that exists over the community, you see the response of the relatives. It takes strength really to stand up in these sort of scenarios. I think that's one of the worst Billy reflected. Men often mask their feelings and have been brought up by that way, but that crime scene was indescribable and the emotions were painful. Such gruesome scenes place a psychological burden on investigators who probe an average of 1,300 murders and countless shootings and other crimes committed in Jamaica annually. At the time of the chilling Cocopiece murder, then chairman of the Jamaica Police Federation, Corporal Will James, himself as a father, said the incident shook him and many others across all ranks of the Jamaica Constabulary Force. He said the heavy sense of blood hung over the community miles away from the scene and that several cops had to seek psychological support. James said every policeman who is a father and who is away for a long period from their families imagined the scene being close to home. I have never seen so many police officers traumatized by a single incident. Big people cry. People who didn't even know them cried, stated James, who added that the police are particularly impacted by crimes against children and senior citizens, especially old women. I have 2 girls and 1 boy, and I was talking about how we treat our boys. My son, I constantly remind him that he is loved by me. I say that regularly to my daughters, but with sons, sometimes we believe it is not manly to say that to your son, I love you. But it's one of the things I keep reminding my son, stated James. I can't say that specific incident pushed us closer because sometimes I don't want to I don't discuss those traumatic scenes because I don't want it to have that impact on them, he told reporters. He said that he sometimes avoids watching the news so as not to relive the trauma. But I constantly remind them sometimes I don't get to speak with my daughters when I call. Young people today are different from our time, but I make sure they know that I love them. Growing up, making contact with my mother was a priority for me as well as my father, he explained. Bailey, who heads the JCF's crime portfolio, said crime scene investigators who see the effects of violence up close and then return to their families are often very shaken. I am a very spiritual person, so at the end of each day, when I am finished working, I find some time to meditate, find some time to spend with my Maker and pray, and I think that gives me a sense of reprise and relief. You may have but the periodic dream, but what I think sometimes though is that you are not able to sleep. When you go to those scenes, you struggle to sleep, he stated. And as hard as they try, sometimes they just cannot forget the gruesome scenes. When you hear the narrative involving what was done in some cases, the experiences become so painful that the police who are trained to investigate it get sick, Bailey told reporters, shaking his head. One such other case involving children caused every member of the investigating team to seek internal and external psychological intervention. The Deputy Commissioner of Police recalled being asked to speak about one of the child murder cases in Jamaica at a conference in Barbados put on by the Caribbean Court of Justice. He was led to tears. The truth is, every time I recount it, it actually brought a sense of gloominess, and at one stage, it brought tears to my eyes. I remember I was speaking to one of my superintendents and I said, when I come back, I think I am going to get some professional intervention as a result of the impact that scene was having on me personally. Not only on me, but on the entire team that was involved in the investigation, Bailey disclosed. It's really hard for us. We understand the intimacy and detail of the investigation. We sat in the reviews. We sat in some of the interviews. We heard the accounts of the incident. It was really depressing, he noted. As part of the wider policy of the JCF, he said that individuals who constantly deal with trauma cases, including scenes of crime investigators and personnel, the Center for Investigation of Sexual Offenses and Child Abuse, are provided with constant intervention by the JCF Chaplaincy Service Branch and externally. They are family members. They have to go home. They have children, and the trauma can have significant psychological impact on them, he stated. While an inspector on weekend duty years ago, Bailey recalled being called to a murder scene at Maxwell Avenue and almost lost it when he saw the condition of the bodies. The heavy grief led him to disappear for a while. I turned off my radio, cellular phone, and I just decided it was enough. I just went home and no one could make any contact with me. Just going to the scene and hear the parents and children crying, mother crying beside the bodies on the ground, and that was after going to several other scenes. It can be very traumatizing and you really struggle to sleep, he told reporters. Bailey said he cannot have peace until there is closure in some of these crimes. So my team will tell you that I push them very hard because we have to find the perpetrators. Sometimes it tears you up. You sometimes put yourself in the position of the family members, those who are alive. What do you want? And you want to ensure that justice is done. So you continue to look at other opportunities. You want to reflect, and even during the night in your head, you try to determine what lines of inquiry you could make. What are the things that you need to do to ensure the matter is resolved, he stated. As a father on the job, his mind is constantly on his 3 children who were raised in the church. He said that he never missed an opportunity to take them to school and enjoy the unforgettable conversations of the journeys. He described as an avid reader for a tender age, another as a super organizer, and the youngest as just being himself. Sometimes I think a lot, daydream. Sometimes I think of my children and the type of responses I would have if it were my children. I don't know if it is phobia, but I am afraid of them going and taking public transportation. Maybe I am overprotective. My son, my one son, maybe I am overprotective. To this very day, I try to avoid him taking public transportation. I want to know what exactly is happening to him, where he is. If he goes out, I would be constantly checking on him. If I know my children are not at home, you can't have a sense of peace and calm until you know that they're home, he's stressed, even at the expense of being called paranoid by his wife. Please remember to subscribe, like, share, and click the notification bell for daily updates.